Hey everyone, my name is Bradley. Welcome to my channel, Portly Gentlemen. It's great to have you with me here today. Today's video is all about Kegsland's Oxebar PET mini kegs. So if that sounds like an interesting video, you want to see how these guys work for me in my real world testing and my day-to-day use, stick around, I'll tell you all about it. Research it, mash it, boil it, ferment it, drink it, analyze it, share it. Home brewing is good. First and foremost, I want to be honest with you guys. These products were all sent to me from Kegland for testing. They have not asked me to say anything in specific. They have not compensated me for this video in any way other than with supplying me with some cool gear for testing and giving me as much time as I want to play with it before I make a video. Hey guys, Future Bradley here, and I just realized a couple things. I have been pronouncing this wrong. It's actually pronounced Oxebar, not Oxebar. That's my bad. And it's also not made of regular PET. It's some sort of fiber reinforced PET, which makes it far stronger than regular PET and less susceptible to oxygen penetration, meaning this will keep your beer fresh for up to 6 months. Back to the video, here we go. What these guys are in a nutshell is a 8-liter, 2.1 gallon PET bottle, essentially. They're a dark brown color. This is gonna stop things like light and stuff from getting in there and damaging whatever is inside of it. So they're PET, which means they're gonna last quite a while. And their price point, in my opinion, is reasonable depending on your distributor, where you get them from. It's gonna vary, but here in the States, if you buy just one, it's about 10 bucks. If you buy 4, they drop down to just under 10 bucks or $9.50, I believe, which I think is really good value for the product. And in my opinion, this is one of the best ways to share your beer. I do love canning, and I really like the Cannula Pro, to be honest, but this holds, 8 liters, 2.1 gallons. I think that's like 14 or 15 pints, I believe. I'm not gonna do the math, but it's quite a bit of beer. And at the price point for this, it's something that if you have to leave it behind and you don't get it back, even if you have the piece that allows you to hook up the pressure reliefs and the gas port and the dip tube, all in all, for the whole setup, you're 30 bucks, I think, which is pretty reasonable. Of course, these can be filled with the lid. Honestly, I would love to see on the top of this guy, just a single adapter so you could almost counter pressure fill this and then store them like that. I think it'd be fine. I don't know if you have to have a pressure relief. I wouldn't think so. I don't know much about legality and safety, to be honest. I mostly just test things out and make beer. It's what I like to do. So I've been using these for about, honestly, 4 or 5 months now, using to transport beer, share beer, or free up room in a keg or something like that if I have just a couple gallons left. They work really good for that, making sure I don't waste anything. There has been one little bit of negative floating around. It's with the PRV. The PRV valve screws onto the top and it does what it says it does. It makes sure if you overpressure it, it releases and doesn't explode, which is always a good thing because when vessels holding beer blow up, it's just bad, messy. Maybe you get hurt, maybe not. But there was a manufacturing error. I guess it affected several hundred of these units at the factory. And what it is, it's the end of this guy right here. There's this O-ring at where it seats here on the metal. I guess that was machined improperly. And what that made us happen was this would not seal on the plastic flange it sits on, and it's causing them to leak. I reached out to Kegland and they told me it was only about 400 or 500 pieces. If this is affecting your unit, reach out to your distributor in your market, wherever you got it from, and they will send you a replacement, I'm told. So honestly, that's the only downside I've seen with these. Mine have worked flawlessly. Mine definitely are not effective, nor any of the other PRVs that I have from Kegland. All mine seal up great, but if that's what's going on, that would solve your issue. If you had to use it in a pinch, you could probably just put a cap on the PRV and no one's gonna know. But again, proceed with caution and be safe. Don't do what I would do because, I'll just get it done. The top piece itself is just a nice piece of black plastic. I don't know the exact material composition, but it's of a high quality. You can screw on the gas port, the PRV, as well as the beverage port. I honestly don't know what order they should go on. I don't think it matters. It's not a big deal, but it's how it goes on. It screws on, and nothing in this guy, it's been pretty hard to get on camera, there is it uses a little kind of flange in there, so there's no O-ring or gasket seal. So those surfaces are creating this seal on their own. It's machined or manufactured, molded into these components. They're manufactured such a way that you don't need any sort of a gasket. And that is honestly far more sanitary. I think it's more robust and more reliable. Having said that, when you tighten these up, you do not need to go Gorilla Tight. Just tighten it hand tight, and that's gonna be good. You shouldn't put a wrench on it. It shouldn't be Gorilla Tight. They're gonna seal up just fine if you follow my instructions and use a little common sense. With the dip tube itself that goes inside of this thing, I found that it's able to evacuate almost all of the beer. And when I got it, almost all of it out, I was like, man, here's the downside of this. I can't get all the beer out. And then I pulled my head out of my ass and realized this is a large 8-liter bottle. I unscrewed the top and just poured it into the glass. Clearly there was no sediment because I didn't ferment in this, but I just dumped it into a glass. So there's no wastage if you don't want to. Honestly, you could blow through one of these with some friends really quickly without even trying. For me, when I'm serving out of these, I'm often traveling on the go. I went to Home Depot and picked up a water cooler, cut a hole in the top, kind of jankily. I'll roll some B-roll. You can see it was a little janky. And basically this thing fits in there perfectly. The top does kind of protrude a little bit, and it's that top. It's called a ball lock adapter tapping head, I believe. It's an awesome little component. I believe it runs about 20 bucks here in the US. Check with Kegland for other markets, and if you're in Australia, where you can get this thing. But that's it. It sticks out the top. I'm using a Pluto gun currently. I'm waiting on some new goodies from Key to hopefully make tapping this a little bit better, but I'm using a Pluto gun, and I do have an adjustable flow ball lock. I'm liking that. It's really convenient to slow the flow down or speed it up, and that just makes it so much easier to get the beer out of it into a glass. As far as pressurizing it, Key recently showed a little trick where he's using another bottle or pressure vessel as kind of just a pressure vessel, as a little accumulator. Overfill that or fill it to its maximum capacity of CO2, and then you can use that and a regulator and put that on this, and you can get several pours without having to have another gas cylinder or regulator with you. I made one myself a few months ago when Key first kind of told me about the idea. I was like, man, that's pretty slick. I'm using, it's right behind me here, my shoulder. Actually, I believe it's a Kegland regulator, but it's like the grandfather to the blow tie. It's old school. I've had them around here for quite a while, and I finally found a use for it because I had stopped using them because new, better stuff came out. And it actually works really well. I'm using, I believe, a 19 or 20 ounce bottle. Honestly, you could use like a larger Coke bottle, like a 1 liter would be great. I know they are working on 1 liter of these Oxebar mini kegs, so that would be great to use one of those for that. And honestly, you don't have to have a separate cylinder or anything. Everything is really portable and cheap and relatively compact. Having said that, I also got from Key and then through Morebeer for this guy, got the Kegland Core 360 mini gas regulator. I believe that's what it's called. The names for me aren't necessarily what matters, but this guy is awesome. It's solid, you know, its finish, it looks good. You know, I'm using a lens that gets pretty macro and crispy lighting. So, you know, you can definitely see every little imperfection in the metal. That doesn't matter, but my setup definitely showcases things like that. In this instance, it doesn't bother me. It's super heavy duty, it's robust. I've actually dropped this more than once and it still works. I'm using an analog gauge just because honestly, if the current generation, I've switched everything back to the analog gauges, I just tend to like it more. I won't go into why. Mine is set up for duo tight. I think that's the way to go. It also comes with you can use a regular, whatever fitting it is to screw something on there. And you can also pop out a plug here on the front of this guy. If we can, on the plug, there's a front plug. And if you pop that out, we're not focusing, you can move the gas out to here, or you can maybe even do like double trouble, I bet, and run 2 off of this without having to have a separate manifold. Whether you want to do that or not is one thing. I am using a SodaStream cylinder here. These things are great. You can pick them up used, honestly. I don't know that Morebeer carries them here in the States. I know Kegland, I think, sells these. They also sell filler kind of hits in a whip, so you can fill this thing off of one of your bigger cylinders. These guys hold like 14.5 ounces of CO2. Honestly, that is quite a bit. The smaller cylinders, and these are pretty widely available everywhere, and honestly really cheap. This guy, I believe, is 16 grams, And I think 16 grams in this equals 6 liters of space. So if you do the math, if one of these is 2 liters, this is 6. Clearly you could run off of this with that regulator, which is the pressure on that thing adjusts really nicely. It's a little touchy to get it down low, but it's honestly, it's really good. First couple times it gave me some little, couldn't hit it exactly. Now I can pull up any pressure I want instantly. Here's another good option. I just like the bigger one. It's a little more substantial. Maybe I'm overcompensating somewhere else, but that's how I use it. But you know, these things, again, if that's what you have access to, snatch one up. It's gonna work for you really well every single time. So like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and pull one. Here's my Pluto gun setup. It's here just behind me. And this thing just, you know, you pull a full beer out of this thing in no time at all. And then you're left with a nice frosty cold beverage ready to drink. So there it is, the way I'm using these things, and they hold your beer, you know, however you want to store it. They work great. They're cheap to buy. Honestly, I think each one of these should last, if you use it properly, 15 to 20 times. If it's, you know, 10 bucks for one, do the math. Or if you have to leave one behind, it's really, really obtainable. And honestly, I don't can anymore unless I'm looking to can a lot of cans, like 5 gallons, 10 gallons, 15 gallons. Otherwise, I just assume fill these, throw it in my little water cooler, bring it wherever I want, and give people fresh beer. I think it's more satisfying to throw it into a clear glass or just a regular Dixie cup and enjoy it wherever you are. They are honestly great. I highly recommend them as a product. If you want people to try your beer, sometimes for me it's, man, do I want to go through the hassle of getting all set up to fill something? Whereas this is just one vessel, fill it, it's a good quantity, and you can share with all your friends, family, coworkers, whoever, neighbors, and get some feedback and hopefully help move you forward through the hobby. As always, I've been Bradley. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, home brewing is good, and I'll see you real soon.